Welcome to the British Football Guy, and we're back in the third part of the UK NFL series. And Ben's back with us. Good to have you back, Bud. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back. Happy to hear some new guests on the show as well. Interesting conversations all around. New sponsors, I hear.
Yeah, new
That's how I get
sponsors.
my news now, just by listening to the show.
Hashtag not Trojans. Spartan condoms. It's a way forward. Unless you want to get pregnant. So
Well,
maybe get married to Chels first.
maybe.
Or don't use Trojan condom. Spartan condoms and then seal the deal. She'll have to say yes.
Think she'd be more happy about that than me.
Well, this is recording, so I know she's an avid listener. So Chelsea, I'm sorry. All right. So we. So today we're going to talk about the XFL, um,
Yeah.
and this is, for me, when we're speaking to Commissioner Gordon, is like this kind of three-part piece. It's always going to come down to money. It's always going to come down to money, and I
Yeah.
think always there's got to be a social good that can come from it. And I think with money, you just siphon some of that stuff off. We talked about it in some of our the previous two UK episodes, talking about the potential franchises. And I think you're right in saying you'd need to kind of have two teams in the UK to start off to make
Yeah.
sense, and two expansion teams, have them on the kind of East Coast conferences. So with that said, I wanted to talk to you about the XFL, and my knowledge on the XFL is limited, and I think as COVID was kind of coming out, it started playing after the. Wait, I mean, was it COVID or was it the year before? Was it in between? Anyway, I remember like
It
seeing
was the
the
year.
because it didn't.
Yeah. I
It
can't
got
remember
cancelled
either
in
'cause it's all
2020, right?
together, but I think it was the. Yeah.
So it got cancelled in
Yeah.
2020,
Yeah.
and when I watched it, I was like, okay, well, this is kind of filling some space, and I remember seeing the Seattle team, and it was a relatively empty stadium, but there was something to watch. So I did a tiny bit of research, and to be honest, I'm going to be leaning on you on a lot of this. So XFL, do you know what XFL stands for?
Oh, okay. So now you're gonna test me.
Well, I mean,
I
because
don't know what the accent.
it's ridiculous because it's
I know
linked.
it's not the first time they make
I mean, it's linked with like
right. This
wrestling,
is
right?
correct. It was Vince McMahon. Is that the guy who owns
That's
all the
it.
wrestling? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So he called the NFL the No Fun League. So XFL is actually means the Extra Fun League without an E. He forgot the E, so it could be EFL.
Yeah.
So
Well,
e- e-
obviously,
extra with an X. Um, but look, I like the idea. I mean, we talk about the Super League in soccer that kind of had a 3 day whirlwind, just trying to change the structure. But I don't. I honestly, when it comes to soccer and European soccer, yeah, maybe some improvements, but it still kind of works. NFL, the same thing. Like, I love watching the NFL. I don't really have that many gripes about the NFL. I only a whole podcast on it, but the outside, like in all seriousness, I love watching it. This part of the year, I think why we started the podcast was to fill in the space until football come back around. There's only so many times you can watch Kevin Costner in draft day. Uh, so yeah, the XFL, I get the idea. So I mean, when do you know when it was created? Like, kind of, what was the what? Because you were telling me the rules that are different, which I had no
well,
idea about.
so it's got some different rules. The XFL though, like it was created, I think, for a couple different reasons. I really like the XFL. I'll kind of start macro here, and we'll get into like some of the rule differences and whatnot. But I like the XFL for a change of pace. I mean, I've grown up watching the same the one league, NFL, my whole life, and I actually can only watch the NFL if my team are playing. It's hard for me to watch another two teams playing unless I'm invested in one of the players. I'm invested in come there, mainly because I feel like it just lasts so long. I don't really enjoy watching games live at the stadiums anymore. We've gone to see the Texans a few times, even when the good teams come in. It's just not fun for the fans if you're there for 4 hours and there's only what I think it's 48 minutes of football actually played, where the ball's only moving for so long. It's become less and less of a spectator sport. It's fun to follow the atmosphere, fun to follow the news. Like we have things to talk about, like the draft that happened recently. We've got a different scenarios to run through. I've had definitely got NFL fatigue, and the XFL was so exciting for me because it was something new. It was in the off season. It wasn't the same players. What this does is gives the players that don't get to make the cut of the only 32. Yes, there are 55-man rosters on each team, so there's tons of spots available. But still, when you think about college players going to the NFL, not that many opportunities for them. So this is like a second chance opportunity.
Right.
You get to see the league below play, and it would definitely bring people up from one to the next. Um, and the rule changes we'll get here that made it more of a spectator sport. So a lot of the rule changes were it did. I don't think anything other than maybe the kickoff one was made for, or the punting one was made for injury sake, so that the players didn't have to feel like they were going and running full speed at each other every play.
Right.
Right. There were a little more precautions around that and make it more viewer friendly. Like so, some of the ones, the big ones, like the PAT or the point after touchdown, that rule was changed. There's no kick, right? You either place the ball, I think it was on the 2, the 5, or the 10-yard line, and you can those point total for that play would be 1, 2, or 3 points, and it's normal offensive play, right? No field goal.
So the rosters
Another
are smaller,
one
right? Because there's no
was
kicks.
I think the rosters. I'm not sure. They play the same amount of people on the field. A lot of the rules are the same. They only change some of them to get to make it more fun to watch. They want players scoring more. They want people going for it more often. Another one was like they devalued punts. So if you kicked the ball out of the back of the end zone or your punt rolled into the end zone, that team gets it on the 35-yard line, right? They get more of an advantage for that. Or basically, so if the offense team's within 50 yards, they don't really want to have to worry about punting it. They want to encourage the teams to go for it on fourth down because that's exciting because that doesn't happen in the NFL very often.
Right.
Right.
Unless you're playing Madden.
More incentive. The way that unless you're playing Madden, the way they set up punts and kickoffs were so that there's less running from where the ball was kicked, basically, or that there's more yardage between when the person catches the ball to when they'll get tackled or pummeled, which is a safety thing. It also makes for potentially better run backs, which are also exciting to watch. They changed a little bit of the clock rules, so the clock runs a little more continuously because I think they wanted all of their games done in under 3 hours, no matter what. And the overtime rules were interesting. I don't remember actually getting to watch one because I did try to watch as much of the XFL as I could. But it's kind of college style where each team has a go. But they were doing them, I think it was like 5 rounds. So if you score, then the other team gets a chance. And whoever made the most points under that or most scores in that 5-round period, they won. Kind of like a shootout, if you will. So it's way more fun to watch as well. So the concept of the XFL was very exciting to me for that. And it was another team to root for and try to get behind, create that. I think Houston, we were the Roughnecks, which goes off the oil and gas background. But the news around it was good. The hype was great. Players loved it as well. But that's kind of like my macro view of the XFL. You can hear it in my voice. I wanted it to succeed a lot. I know you and I have talked off live recording. Like I still want it to come back. I think it came down to a money issue as to why they couldn't do it. But it's a great. It would have been a great addition to have another way for players to make their name, come up and through it, and just something else to watch on TV. I think the NFL probably didn't feel threatened not right away, and obviously they don't. It didn't work out. but I want the NFL to have competition to make their games more exciting rather than relying on players being really good to create headlines. Right, the XFL is supposed to be a highlight machine.
Right.
The NFL sometimes the highlights aren't really good. Like or the NFL, if you're very into football, um, defensive games can be fun to watch for you. They're not very fun to watch for the average viewer when it's 3 and out for 2 quarters straight. Nobody wants to watch, you know, 12, 13 punts.
You know what? I think that's a really good overview in terms of just like you said, a macro piece. Um, and I want to get into more detail, but I kind of wanted to give some insight into in the majority of sports there is always like the lesser sibling that is just trying to. I'm being watching The Crown a lot of late. If you haven't, this is a Netflix. No, it's not a Netflix commercial, but the Crown is incredible. But they were talking about. Have you been watching it with Chels?
No, we just started a new series. It's got no relation to this podcast, but I'll plug it.
Fuck it off. Just start watching The Crown. It's British. You
Okay.
you work on the British football guy. Watch British culture. I mean, I say you work. You don't get paid.
I'm Team Megan. Sorry, can't.
So, with The Crown, my mum said that
Glaze over that.
Ritz looks like Megan.
It's racist.
I mean, dark hair, dark eyes. Similar. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so with The Crown, you always have Prince Harry and like basically the non-heirs to the throne. They're a spare piece, so they want to challenge and they want to kind of give a little bit more to the establishment, and then I guess like kind of say this isn't what you're doing, which is fun. I would want to have my own voice, and this is how The Crown reflects to not just XFL to NFL. It happens in so many sports. So if you think about the MLS, and many people shouldn't think about the MLS because it's horrendous to watch, but there is, I don't know if it's like the NSL or there is so many other types of leagues that they try to expand it and make it, better for viewing watch. In the UK, we have cricket. Cricket is England's baseball, and they share so many similarities. Not that you're just hitting a bat and a ball and trying to fucking hit it as far as you can, and you both have boundaries. I think the thing about baseball that I loved was you're in outside, except for Houston. Oh, we both been to Houston games, and I hate being at the Minute Maid, except for that sweet ass train that rolls down every time they get the home run. But you usually have the roof on top of you because it's 280 degrees with humidity outside, so they have the roof on for aircon. Again, not great for the climate. Imagine what that bill would be. That would be insane. So I love the Rockies Coors Field. And I went to one game, and you can buy tickets at Coors Field for about $10, and you get a free beer with your seat.
What?
So you're already up. You're making money by going to see this game, but you don't get a seat. You're just on the patio. And what I loved about the baseball was you've got the Rocky Mountains in the background. I don't think I saw one pitch, but it was being at the environment, being around a shit ton of people. Same with cricket.
That's part of it, though, right? Yeah, that's part of it. You want to go. I know some people actually, they're English, but they love cricket. I've tried to watch it. I also can't watch baseball. I don't like it very much unless the Astros are cheating to win the World Series. Then I'm all about it. But that's part of it. It's like the fan atmosphere around it because we had a similar. We've got a minor league team from the Indians, and I'd go to their games. I mean, dirt cheap, tickets basically free. It's easy to bring the family along, have a great time, and I mean, you just clap and yell whenever you hear the crack of the bat. You don't. Well, it's going on. Don't even know who's batting, but they're excited because somebody finally hit the fucking ball.
And you're
But
so drunk.
that's definitely part of it.
So
Yes. Well, I wasn't drunk when I was 12 at the time, but sure my dad was.
but yeah, look, I mean, cricket in the UK. I mean, I was okay at cricket, but I didn't follow that sport. Like as a kid, you play every sport under the sun. I even did gymnastics, but I got told off for beating up kids. I was too. Obviously, you know me quite well. I'm quite placid. I'd like to think I'm quite placid. So back then, though, I was doing gymnastics and I used to beat kids up. I was like 2 or 3. But anyway, so I didn't like cricket. But what I did enjoy, especially when I lived not too far out of London, or even in Yorkshire, where I'm from, is you will have these lovely summer evenings, not that many of them in the UK, but you can just take a bottle of wine, a rug, watch, guys play cricket. Not really watch them. You're just drinking with your significant other. But it's nice. And I think that's the same with baseball. But however, it's boring as fuck. So nobody's actually there for the sports. It's just let's get out of the house.
I mean, cricket game matches, whatever they're called, test matches, whatever, they last days, don't they?
Apparently, there's been one going on since 1980, and it's still going. It's nearly 45 years long. You're right, though.
Tell me when the is in, like, to get to the good bits, please.
Well, this is it, and this is what I was going to say. Probably making my point on a massive tangent, but maybe we should just call the podcast tangents. But with the, my wife's American, so when it comes to soccer, she was like, "Wait, you can tie in soccer? That's the most un-American thing." And I completely agree with her. We might even do an episode on this. Is if you couldn't tie in soccer, what would that do? It change, this American. There's a winner and a loser. There's no kind of participation awards. The lefties can fuck off, and with their participation. But it is that type of thing. So the cricket it was an American that did this. Like you said, tests would go for 5 days. And if there was rain, it would be a tie. It would just be, after 4 days, there's a bit of rain. Okay, it's done. After 5 days of playing, there's a tie. So 5 days mean nothing. So, and you can take the best part of an hour to throw one ball if you wanted to. Like, there's no time limit. It's not like a shot clock. So you could take, just scratch the ball on your crotch, just make sure it's shiny and stuff like that. You could do that for half a day. And nobody's going to say, probably should throw it. And that's the thing with cricket. That's how. I mean, I think there's like British sketch shows of stuff like that. But look, so what this American came in, and he was Texan, and he said, okay, what you're going to do, it was called 2020 cricket. And it was, you have 20 overs, which was 120 pitches basically that you would throw. And you had to get as many runs as possible, or home runs. So it changed the dynamic that you were just hitting it as much as you could. So that was a competition to cricket, but it became very loved very quickly because it was exciting to watch, in front of your TV. Yeah. So I think there's always stuff like that. And then with rugby in the UK, you have rugby union and rugby league. The rugby league was a newer version that sought to change the rules and did become popular within the working class and the Norfolk, which is me. So there are always pieces to this, and the XFL, I think the NFL has just got such a strong establishment that it's not going to do it. However, I don't think the XFL is in the right place, and prior to going into it, I'm going to take a bit of a commercial break for latest fictitious sponsor. And we're bringing in Belichick's Craft Brewery back again. And it's an Edelman Weiss beer that is very hoppy and will not be in any stores this summer. So look out for Belichick's Craft Beer Edelman Weiss.
I've had it. It's quite a flat beer. No foam.
All right, so we're back and we're going to talk about where the XFL should sit and where it should sit in the UK. So Ben, look, I want you to critique this business plan and let me know what you think. So they have different rules. I get that. There's some bullshit like, did The Rock buy it for $1 after it went out of business? Do we know about that or not?
Stopped following the news after they canceled the season. To be honest with you, it was just a letdown, and I heard about it.
Okay, so it's cancelled again this year as well.
The Rock has. I haven't heard of it coming back.
2022. So they're thinking XFL 2022, and I just wanted to run through the names of the teams and also think about the cities. So you have the St. Louis Battlehawks, the Dallas Renegades, the New York Guardians, the DC Defenders, Seattle Dragons, Houston Roughnecks, like you said, Tampa Bay Vipers, the LA Wildcats, LA Extreme. Fuck knows why LA needs 2 more football teams. Orlando Rage, and it looks like somebody on steroid just going off for the Orlando Rage. No idea what that is. The Chicago Enforcers, the New Jersey. Oh, I can't even see that image. It's got a H. What the hell? My mouse went to sleep. What the hell is this? It's a H. Hitmen. The New Jersey's Hitmen, that Las Vegas Outlaws. Wait, I thought there was only 8 teams. How the hell? How many times have I picked? Maybe this is in all time.
Yeah.
The Vegas Outlaws, San Francisco Demons, the Birmingham Thunderbolts, and the Memphis Maniacs with an X, not a C. Look, so my past boss was actually an arena football champion for the team in Chicago, and I think we'll get him on for an episode. Insane, yeah. I mean, he's a big guy.
Arena football's cool. Arena football is great to watch.
I've heard that, and I heard Phoenix does really well. Ritz keeps on telling me that it's. But anyway, so God, tangents all the time. So look, I'm looking at these teams, and I'm looking at the logos. You know what? I think if you look at obviously we just did the helmets episode. Some of these are really trash, and it does feel like it's done by WWF or WWE. So look, I would scrap this. They have these different rules, and the latest news on the XFL coming back in 2022 is they're having talks with CFL, not college football, but the Canadian Football League. Now, what they say is that the Canadian Football League is actually a higher standard than XFL. And they're looking to either potentially merge them or have it as a developmental kind of agreement. So CFL and XFL come together. So that's a potential that they're doing. And this is what I'd put to, Vince McMahon? So Commissioner McMahon or The Rock, if he's listening today.
The Rock is on their website as one of the 2 owners, including a venture capital group. So The Rock is Commissioner Rock.
Commissioner Rock. So Commissioner Rock, if you're listening and you're not saving the world today, this is my plan on how we bring the XFL to become the UK FL. Oh, that's not that catchy, is it? It's not that catchy.
We'll work on that.
Damn it.
Work on.
I'm sorry, Mr. What's his last name? Dwayne
Johnson.
Mr. Johnson. That's the Johnson. Apologies. So look, here's my plan, and this is the extension and the final part of the UK piece. So we're trying to get British sports into the NFL and kind of grow that global base. So we talked about the amount of money that people will see to go see Miami against the Jets, like the sellout. Like when the NFL comes into town, it sells out. We determined there's 2 stadiums that have NFL capacity, and this is the long-term UKFL, XFL route that they will take. So for the first 2 seasons, rather than playing the off-season in the US, you're looking at 8 teams. I don't know. Let's just say they play each other once, right? 8 weeks, 2 months. For a UK
Okay.
visa for an American to come over to the UK, you can come out over without a visa for 3 months. So there's no visa issues. So let's say when the soccer season ends, which is now, unless there's a kind of a Euro Cup or something like that. So May 5th, soccer season
Hmm.
finishes. You then start the XFL in the UK. Now, to start off, we would put it in Wembley and the new Spurs Stadium. So both London based. So you have 8 teams. You have all these players that come over. They spend their summer in London for 2 months. Now, this is the off season for the NFL. It gives those
Yep.
players an opportunity to put themselves in the shop window for NFL teams.
Well, yeah.
Becomes a kind of like a feeder league, but it also gives the exposure. And if you're talking about money, then you're going to get British viewership. So you're going to get TV rights. So this would be the British League with American players. However, this is the other caveat. Rugby, our rugby men, I mean, I'm what, just shy of 6 foot, 175 pounds, not muscle. And when I was in the best shape of my life, I was a soccer player on the wing, and they used to put us into the school rugby team, and we were like a conveyor belt. We get hit once, and they bring on the next soccer player, bring on the next soccer player. We weren't built for it, but our rugby players in the UK and in England, no, I would say the UK because we've got the Welsh, Scottish, and the Irish. They're built like tanks, and there's no pads.
Oh yeah, they're
Insane men, no fear. Obviously, there's no helmets. I think this is where the crossover starts. Where you start, and rugby, they make nothing in comparison to soccer and Premier League. Nothing. Even if they're in the national team, it's not, if you have a good professional career in the US, you will make money, more money than rugby stars in the UK over the course of your career. So you bring this crossover. So the caveat would be to this is that you must include 3 British players on your roster. Now the rugby season's already over, so they could come into this. They do the same within cricket. So you have 3 Brits that could potentially put their, again, face in the window. Harry Kane, who's a soccer player for Tottenham Hotspurs, has said when he retires from soccer, he wants to be a kicker in the NFL. So this is an extension of their career. But these men are insane in terms of speed, agility, and a lot of the movement is the same, especially for the running back position.
yeah. There's a lot of crossover. I mean, because the NFL is based off of I think 7-touch rugby at its roots is what it was called. So there's a lot of the similarities. I mean, I think it would. I like this idea a lot. So I'm not gonna try to poke holes in it because there's a lot of crossover. You get a lot of good people with that because they're all. I think from what I know in rugby, at least half of the team are very coordinated and catch and throw the ball, right? And some of them can even fucking kick it. Apparently, so I've
I
seen.
mean,
So there's definitely crossover, but what you're gonna get as well is guys that can run and take a tackle from guys that are. I mean, you've got what 250-pound guys that are all muscle, still taking hits from guys that are 50, 75 pounds more of them, and they're not 50, 75 pounds of fat like you'd maybe see in a lineman where they need to get big. They're still very muscular guys, and those linemen in the NFL, ridiculous athletes. Not putting anything against them, but the guys in rugby, they are solid muscle, and they know how to hit back, and they can run with the ball as well. It's interesting potential crossover on that because you all of a sudden see fullback just absolute tanks, right? They go up, block, run the ball when they need to, break through the line at the goal line. Just one scenario. If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch a rugby highlight video, and they tackle differently. They'd have to adjust to that in the NFL, but like the fact that they can run with that, get the momentum they need, and still do what they have to do to get anybody down or get the ball out of their hands, insane.
I mean, look, we might create another episode after this because, oh God, I think there's a lot more we can talk about on this. But to your
Yeah.
point, it's like if you have, 3 rugby players that starting that crossover, you have national interest on that. And let's just say if you have 8 teams, 24 players, let's just say 4 of them make it into the NFL as Brits.
Yeah.
You then have national people, and then also if you're thinking as a team, let's just say the Jets, they're in a rebuilding mode. The Jets sign one of these Brits, your fan base has just increased by millions. It's like what we do within soccer with getting an Asian player, like Ji-sung Park, Ji-sung Park was a great player, but then that Korean fan base for Man United was huge. Same with Son for Tottenham. I mean, Son's...
different sport, NBA, they've got a huge Asian following as far as viewership goes. Like getting the fan base and creating anybody else or bringing anybody else outside culturally into the sport. I mean, one, the Rockets also really embraced it. They've got the special jerseys for it. They wear during
Chinese
the
New
season.
Year.
They have the I think it's the Chinese lettering on it. New Year, which by the way, those jerseys look amazing. Just extra things that they do to bring those people in. So back to your point, I think it wouldn't actually be hard to bring on somebody who would do decent work on the field from a British background, if that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Get more people involved with the sport, get more engagement around the sport. Anything you can do to expand the fan base and get more people talking and looking, you're going to make obviously the owners happy and anybody doing the TV rights, and then giving more hope to the kids that are growing up playing the sport as well, right? Because now they've got a jersey of a guy or that basically went to the same high school. And like, if you get 3 people on there that background, you've got some colleges in the U.S. that have never signed 3 people to the NFL, right? And when you see the news go around every year when the college guy was like one of the first or the first one in like 20 years to get signed, the whole student body is absolutely bought in, right? And that's good for the sport.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know what it comes down to for the numbers, but it gets engagement. It gets more people excited. At least that group of people are bringing into the culture. And now you've got a whole new fan base, or you feel like individually you're bought, right? And there's a huge aspect to that for me the NFL misses the mark nowadays because there's just not enough of it. It's just so status quo. And I think that's one of the things I got really excited for the XFL. And I started player stories the first time since probably Rodgers came to the league, right? When Packers started turning things around when he actually played. Sorry, not when he was drafted, but like it's just hard as a casual viewer. I mean, I know plenty about the NFL, the ins and outs, X, whatever, but it gets stale if you don't want to follow all of the news, if you don't want to go and do all this XYZ. Sports Center is the same every day for an hour, right? It's not too intriguing. It takes work to stay up with it rather than just being like a viewer that's like, oh my god, can't wait to watch all of the games this weekend, which is where I'm at with soccer. Although I'm a United fan, I'll watch anybody play, I'm so happy to see West Ham up at the top of the table because when I started watching soccer, they were not. Right, I'm not out here supporting them, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and this is it. I think, look, probably one of the objectives of this podcast is how do we shorten the time between February and September. And I think, the XFL in its intention, I think the XFL, its intentions is terrific, but I think it has a gap in the UK. And I think, again, you have that market, you have the money there, and you have the time of the season right to do it. So you bring in all these college football players that don't make it. I think about practice squads. The running back for the Broncos, he just left, Phil Lindsay. He was at CU. He didn't get drafted. He came in from a practice squad, and Phil Lindsay's terrific guy. So you think about all these additional superstars that you can make, that you put in. If you're at Alabama and you don't get drafted, you're playing for Alabama, you're still going to be a phenomenal player. You bring these players in, you give them another opportunity. So you have these 8 teams. They play all the games in London. Now, one thing that we do in the UK is if it's a synthetic field, it's not going to get kicked up. So you could pay for a ticket and you say back-to-back 2 games. So you
Mm.
could even
Yeah.
shorten that time, and you've got these 2 stadiums to do it. In addition, so rather than having, I'm just thinking of the team names that we saw, like San Francisco Demons, you start giving them UK city names. And this is the other option. Because we have the infrastructure in the UK for soccer teams, you could have, we talked about it a little bit, the Manchester Red Devils. So you have the Red Devils playing in Manchester. You could have
London.
London Royals. You could have it, and these teams become the expansion from 2 NFL UK teams to 4. Alternatively, I mean, this is getting off topic again. I was thinking about the pro relegation piece. So look, I think so. I'm gonna end this piece on the UK as an XFL. You do it over a period of 2 months, so the players can come over. They don't need a visa. You have this caveat of having 3 or 4 British players that have to be in the roster that learn it. Mainly going to play a running back or wide receiver type of position. In addition to that, you start it in London, or you utilize these 8 teams, you rename them to British cities, so then you've got these fan bases that can be playing in these areas. If they do well enough, they can be an expansion to having more NFL teams in the UK. The other hypothetical is this becomes the Pro Rel. So the XFL is the Pro Rel, but this is a different piece. I talk about how I think the NFL can get to 40 teams. So you've got 8 teams. So let's just say you're not doing a UK expansion, or let's just say you've got 2 teams that are doing the UK expansion. You've got 6 teams left. With the XFL, every 2 years, the team with the most wins gets added as a franchise. So that's the caveat. So you know that these, I mean, you've got Birmingham here. I've been to Birmingham. It's Alabama. They're a footballing nation as a state. Who else do you have here that could have Chicago? There's only one Chicago football team. You could have another Chicago football team. So over a period of 12 years, you could expand it to 40 through this. So I think there's different ways that can be utilized. I'd love to hear, I mean, look, prior to signing off on this, what are your thoughts? Any other ways that you think the XFL could be utilized, and or any kind of critiques or caveats to what we talk about having in the summer in the UK?
I think without going on another tangent that leads to 3 more tangents, I like the idea of it. I think anything that brings more variety to the sport, although with different rules, you could claim it's a different sport, but for all intents and purposes, we'll call it the same thing, and create the connection like you're talking about. I don't think there's any downside there as long as it's executed, right? And it's down to execution, because I think you always have fans turn up to whatever. Now, to make it big enough, you got to make it interesting. I think the XFL actually did really well at making it interesting. So not too much needs to change as far as how the game is played. Their marketing, obviously, around some of these teams is interesting because the logos look like clip art from Word when I was in school, but people still got behind it, right? You could do the same in the UK. You could do it, I think, almost anywhere you could do it. But I like the idea. The UK is obviously dying for some more football, American football, right? With basically selling out every game that put over there. Give them some more. Give them something to actually support. You guys support your guys' actual soccer teams or actual football teams, if you will, basically by blood, most people, right? I think there's potential for people to get behind it. You're always going to have your crazy people behind it, and putting extra criteria on expanding the league from there, more exciting. The NFL is going to be very interested about that, right? But I maybe we'll talk about this in another episode, like putting a point system behind it, right? I don't know if anybody would watch a football game where you could actually tie that often, but I like the idea of a point system over the longevity of a season. You have to play enough games for it, obviously, to make sense. But put that in there so it's a little bit more applicable to what you guys are looking at. But just, I think anything that grows the sport culturally is good.
So, look, I know we probably were talking about this in some of the other episodes. I will email Commissioner Johnson um, with this proposal. I'll let you know in kind of future episodes if we get some type of out of office, um, saving the world again. But look, I think this is it. It comes down to money. Like we say, with
Yeah.
so much, it comes down to money. And like I said, as long as there's a social good element of it that you can siphon some of that money to, let's do it. And I think it is something that can save it. You have a market ready for it, like you said. Sell out stadiums. Um, I think our plan's pretty solid. Look, we are going to be developing the British Football Guy a little bit further in terms of stature. We do have a Facebook group. We do want to start more of a discussion around this. So when it comes to what would you name your expansion teams for British NFL teams, or again, if you think our plan for the XFL is shit, like I said, email Ben. Don't email me. I don't want to hear it. I get butthurt easily. But look, we do actually want to start more of a discussion, and we do appreciate the views. But yeah, again,
Sure.
look, Ben, good to have you back. Glad we've put a nice bow over the UK expansions. I'm sure we're going to revisit this in months to come as news
Yeah, I
comes
think
out.
there's a lot more to go into there, but I would be excited to see what some of the people who are listening have to say as well. So I'd be interested to see anybody getting into that Facebook group, kind of
Mate,
interacting there.
and maybe they're not Crown fans. And if they're not a fan of the Crown, then they might be anti-royalist and they don't want the London Royals. But yeah, like Ben said, please join the Facebook group. Love to hear from you. And look, actually, we talked about Pristine Auction not too long ago. Um, we do have jerseys that I've accidentally bought drunk. And what I'm going to do with them is I am going to auction them off separately and they will go to a charity of your choosing. And at the moment, I have a Calvin Ridley one up, which is going to be the first one. So if Calvin has a good year, bid on it. Whatever you spend on it, I will give you the receipt to that charity that it goes for. So I think when the football season starts, we'll start doing that. Another tangent.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So next episode, not too sure what it's going to be. Ben, any ideas? Oh, I do know what it is going to be. I do want to know what it's going to be. It's going to be
Yeah.
a new Madden. The not Madden 2022. It's a new football NFL game that isn't Madden. That's what we're going to be talking about.
Ooh, dicey.
Well, might not be. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Okay. We'll be back soon. Thanks for listening.